Your favorite PGA and LPGA legends, pros and top instructors are right here every week on Next on the Tee. Join Chris as the greats of the game share their stories, insights and playing lessons. Now, back to Chris and more of the show.
All right, now joining me on the French Lick Resort guest line is LPGA player and legend Gail Graham. Let me give you some more background on Gail. She is from Vanderhoof, British Columbia, which is in Western Canada. As a junior golfer, she won the Manitoba Junior Championship once and the Manitoba Ladies Championship title twice. She played her college golf at Lamar University, where she was a 4-year letterman and an all-academic All-American in 1986. She was a member of their 1983 team that finished 7th in the NCAA Division I National Championship. She was inducted into the Lamar University Hall of Honor in February of 2000. Gail finished 5th in the Canadian Amateur Championship in 1985, won the Manitoba Amateur Championship and the SMU Fall Classic that same year. She was a member of the Canadian Commonwealth Championship team in 1987, turned pro in 88, and won the Manhattan Futures Classic title. She qualified for the LPGA Tour in 1990 by finishing 5th at the LPGA Final Qualifying Tournament in 89. She got her first win on tour at the 1995 Field Classic Cannon Open by 2 strokes over Tammy Green. She won again in 1997 at the Australian Ladies Masters by 1 stroke over Kari Webb. In 1998, she won the Canadian PGA Women's Championship. In 2000, she became the first non-American president of the LPGA Tour. In 2002, she was awarded the William and Mousy Powell Award, which is given annually to the LPGA Tour player whose behavior and deeds exemplifies the spirit, ideals, and values of the LPGA Tour. In 2008, she was inducted into the Manitoba Golf Hall of Fame. In 2015, inducted into the British Columbia Golf Hall of Fame, and she's now out playing on the LPGA Tour, and I'm very honored she is with me tonight here on Next on the Tee. Hey, Gail, thanks for coming on the show.
Well, it's my pleasure. Thank you very much for that little trip down memory lane.
You're welcome. So, Gail, I want to go back to your start in golf. And I read a story about you that said you were out with your father one day. He was playing golf, and you were sort of walking alongside him because you had nothing better to do. And, you asked if you could take a swing. Having never played before, you hit a perfect shot straight down the fairway. Is that how it all got started for you?
Pretty close. My parents, my father worked for the Royal Bank of Canada, and we lived in British Columbia when he got transferred to Manitoba. And a lot of the kids there, their families had cabins that they would go to on the lakes in northern Ontario and southern Manitoba in the summertime. And we didn't because my dad liked to play golf. And so I was kind of bored. And they took me out one Sunday. My little brother was already playing, and I walked around with them, and I said, okay, well, that was like the most boring thing I've ever done in my whole life. So maybe next week, can I try it? And so we went out, and my dad got the head pro to give him a set of clubs for me to try, and the pro showed me how to hold on to the golf club, and away we went. And in my first 9 holes, I shot 59, with really no instruction other than how to hold on to the golf club. So it was I got bitten by the bug very quickly. And I was an athlete. I played everything. So it was kind of fun to do something on my own without a team. And my little brother played also, and it became a great spot for us to be out at St. Charles Country Club in Winnipeg, Manitoba, and go round and round and round the West Nine with a bunch of other kids, and we were there from dawn to dusk for a lot of the summer. So it was a great way to start.
And Gail, it's one thing, to enjoy the game, playing with your brother, your father, your mother, your family out there. It's quite another to realize, hey, I could be really good at this. When was that moment for you? When did you discover I could really be good at this?
Well, as I went through high school, I had a couple of opportunities that sort of gave me a taste of what golf outside of my own little nest was like. And the Optimist at the time ran the Junior Worlds in San Diego. And the Optimist Club in Manitoba picked me along with 3 other junior golfers, 1 other girl and 2 boys, to go to San Diego. And they let us know in about November, and we were to go in the summertime, the next summer. So I spent that summer when I was 15 really working hard on my game, and And then I went down to San Diego, and who were the stars there but Phil Mickelson and Heather Farr. And I was rudely awakened to the fact that I didn't even stand a chance against these players that were playing all year round and had been playing golf for a lot of years, and I'd only been playing golf for 2 years. So, but it gave me sort of the bite and the desire to go back and have some fun and travel and pursue golf as something. And then, into my senior year of high school, I was offered a scholarship to Lamar, and it really wasn't till after my freshman year there when Dawn Coe, now as Dawn Coe-Jones, she was a senior when I was a freshman, and when she got her tour card, we all kind of went, wow, we could beat her on any given day. So maybe we should think about this. And so as I progressed through college and had 3 more years basically to develop my game, I thought, okay, well, I'm going to give this a go and see what happens. Maybe 5 years and see where I am after 5 years. And 20 some years later, I'm still playing competitively every now and then. So it kind of stuck.
So how does a girl from Western Canada end up playing her college golf in Texas?
That's a great question. The coach there, Pat Park, she recruited a lot from Canada. She had some success with not only with Dawn, but Dawn Courtguard, Lynn Cook, and some players that came along. Patty Grant, who is now Patty Jonas and is out in Vancouver, and she teaches out there. There was a real core group of Canadians, and so when I arrived, I think we had 3 on the travel team that were Canadian, and 4 actually. Leslie Price from Ontario came in the same time as me, and at one time, I think my senior year, we had all 5 players were Canadian. The coach liked us because not only had we shown that we could play, but we were also really good students, so she could get us into academic scholarships to be able to spread scholarships around and have a stronger team and with more depth. So we were lucky that way. And to this day, Lamar and now so many other colleges recruit not only from Canada but from around the world. So it was a bit of an awakening going from Winnipeg, Manitoba, where in September I would be putting my clubs in the closet for the winter, to Beaumont, Texas, where in September it's 100 degrees out, and I was not putting my clubs in the closet. So it was a little sharp contrast to what I was used to. And I remember my first winter break going home for Christmas, and I was home for 21 days, and I literally never stepped outside. I would get in the car in the garage, and we would usually park in a parkade. It was so stinking cold, I couldn't stand it because I was so used to that hot weather already. And I wonder why now I'm cold all the time.
And Gail, you mentioned a moment ago Dawn Coe-Jones. We unfortunately lost her not that long ago to bone cancer. But just curious to get your memories about playing alongside her.
Well, what a great mentor for me and a great friend for me over the years. We used to call Dawn when I was in college. We used to call her the Chief, and we would have to follow her around. So whatever, she was the senior, she was the number 1 player, and the coach would say, where do you want to go for dinner? And we'd all look at Dawn because we knew she'd win anyway. And as it turned out, when I got out on tour, she took me under her wing and, helped me find my way around courses the first couple of years. And my ex-husband, actually, Terry Graham, he actually caddied for her for a couple of years. She had seen that as we were going through my second year on tour that we were struggling a little bit with spending a little too much time together. And she said, hey, anytime you guys want to take a week off, I'd be glad to have Terry come caddy for me. And that was the last time he caddied for me. And it turned out to be, a great partnership for them. He was on her bag for her first win in Hawaii, and it was, we became all of us became very close, and with her husband Jimmy as well, and so it was a really great friendship, and over the course of the years we just became more and more sort of lifelong friends. And 2016, watching her be diagnosed and go through surgery and treatments and fight, and she did it with such class and such grace, and we were blown away by how she handled herself. Just a year ago, we had the first Dawn Coe-Jones Classic to benefit the Amanda Lee Fund at Moffitt Cancer Center, and that event is coming up at the beginning of November, and obviously it'll be the first time without her. It'd be very bittersweet, but she stood in front of a room of 300 people and spoke very eloquently. There wasn't a dry eye in the room except for her. And less than a month later, she was gone. And so it was it's been hard. I can't believe it's been almost a year since she's been gone, but miss her every day. And I see so many traits of hers and her son Jimmy, who is playing at the University of South Florida and is in his senior year. Things that you wouldn't even realize, like when he finishes, he kind of settles into his hip, just like she did. And the way he sets up over the golf ball, it looks just like her. And it's mind-blowing, the resemblances that there are between the two of them. But definitely miss her incredibly. She was always good for a laugh and a poke of fun. And when certain television shows came on, or she heard from someone on Facebook, or she used to watch my dogs over the internet when they were at the kennel when I was traveling. And she would yell at me because she'd say, "Why did you give me that link? I spent an hour watching your dog sleep." And we used to get a big kick out of that. But, I miss her dearly. And bone cancer is a very, very hard thing, especially the type that she had. And the event, November 3rd, which is at Tampa Palms, her home course, hopefully they'll make a dent in finding better ways to treat it, and hopefully a cure one day down the road.
And Gail, I've talked with a lot of players, on the men's side and on the ladies' side about Q School and the qualifying tournament, and it being the most stressful tournament that they've ever played in. Was it the most stressful for you?
Oh boy. Yeah, actually it's funny, the LPGA sectional is coming up this week in Venice, and I have a young lady who's a good friend of mine who's going through that this week, and I actually tied for first with Dawn Andrews at the sectional in Venice, 100 years ago, and that part of it I didn't find as stressful. When you get to the final school, the stress is hard to describe, because it's not like your heart is racing or you're shaking, but your body does things that you just don't know where it came from. I remember standing in the middle of a fairway, and it was a par 5, and you could go for it in 2. And I had 3-wood, and I shanked my 3-wood out of bounds, going for the green in 2, and stood there and went, "Whoa, what was that?" And then I dropped the ball and hit the next one on the green and made the putt for par.
Wow!
You're like, how did that just happen? It was kind of mind-blowing. But the stress would show up in different ways. And, it took me, I qualified on my second attempt. And my first attempt, I was in one of the last groups the final day, and I shot 80, and I bogeyed the last hole, and I missed by a shot. And I remember thinking at the time that was just the most devastating thing that had ever happened to me. And 2 or 3 years later, I realized it was the best thing that ever happened to me, because I really wasn't ready to be out there. As it turned out, I went through my rookie year on tour in 1990, and had to go back to Q School again. And I talked myself into that I was never, ever going back to play the Futures Tour. And I was bound and determined I was going to have exempt status. And I never looked back. I think I finished 8th that year, and then I never looked back. I never even came close to losing my card until it was time to walk away from the tour. So it is a very stressful time, because you have such big dreams, and you want them to happen now. And if hindsight's 2020, I could say it's a process. And there are times when you don't qualify that there's a reason for it, but it takes a whole year to figure out what that reason was. And that's, when you're young, that's a hard thing to swallow. But like I said, it was the best thing that ever happened to me that I didn't qualify my first time, because I wasn't ready the second year either, as it turned out. But hey, I can look back now and say I wouldn't give any of that all up. I learned a lot, and it made me a stronger player for sure.
So Gail, let's talk about your first win on the tour, '95 Fieldcrest Cannon Open. What was it like for you? Coming down the stretch, you got the opportunity to win your first tournament on tour. What's it like trying to get that first win when you got a few holes left to play?
Well, the night before, I had a one-shot lead going into the final round, and the night before, we had a dinner for outgoing Commissioner Charlie Meacham, and I had arrived late because I was playing late and I wanted to practice a little bit after, and then I had to do some media stuff. So by the time I got to the dinner, everybody was already seated. And once dessert came around, I got up and I kind of wandered around the room, and I talked to Meg Mallon, and I talked to Beth Daniel, and I talked to Pat Bradley. And my question to each of them was, if you're on 18 and you have a one-shot lead, the 18th hole was a hittable par 5. I said, do you go for it too? Because there was a big pond. I mean, it was definitely risk reward, but do you go for it too? And to a player, they said, well, worry about that when you get there. And it depends on, how he's been playing the whole day. And if you've got that one shot lead, you're still in control. So, if the player you're playing with can't go for it too, then, you might not want to risk it. But if they can, you might want to think about it. And, sure enough, I got to the 18th tee, and we had a long wait, and, Tammy Green was one shot back, and she stood up on the tee first and hit it into the fairway bunker. So I knew she couldn't go for it too. And then I hit the biggest drive I've hit all week, and I was down so that I had, I think, about 160 yards into the green. And it was no question as to whether it was a go or no go. It was only 160 yards. So I ended up, she laid up, and I still felt like, she could still make birdie from there. There's no question about that. But I took enough putt to hit it to the back of the green, which I did. And then she hit it about 10 feet, and I rolled my first putt about 10 feet past the hole, just inside of her. And when she missed hers, I made mine. And I just remember the sort of, aha, I did it. And whoa, wait a minute, I just did it. Like, it was so surreal because I was so into it and so focused. And then I was like immediately out of that focus and the realization that, wow, these people are cheering because I just made that putt and I just won. Holy cow, I just won. And it was pretty amazing. I was, I still felt like I was pretty young up there, but I'd seen a lot of my friends win, and I thought, I could do this. Like Dawn, I every given day I could beat her. So it was pretty amazing. And back then we did a lot of stuff. We did a lot of stuff off the golf course as players that kind of went unheralded. And the day after, so I had, we celebrated, we did the media thing, and I had pizza with some friends at one of their private housing. And I then got in a car and drove down to downtown Charlotte, to spend the night in a hotel room with like 6 other players, because Betsy King being one of them. We got up the next morning and started to build a house for Habitat for Humanity. And I thought, wow, okay, that's what it's like to win a tournament. And, aren't you supposed to like celebrate for days? And no, we turned around and it was back to like serious reality the next day, which is really cool. It really grounded me. And it took me, I didn't get home till Friday. And when I arrived home, then there was the celebration with everybody from my youngest nieces and nephews to my grandmother at the airport to meet me. So it was really, it's very vivid in my mind about that. The only thing was that my husband at the time wasn't there. I was there by myself. So that was kind of a little bit bittersweet. Fortunately, the second win that I had on tour, my parents were there. So and that's a great story too. But it was very cool to have family right there when you win.
Yeah, and that's what my next question was about the 97 Australian Ladies Masters. Your parents travel over to Australia with you, and then they get to see you win a tournament on top of that. Talk about how special that was.
It was pretty surreal. I remember telling my parents that I had 2 round-trip tickets on Canadian Airlines, and we should use them. Somebody should use them before they expire or before Canadian Air goes belly up. And it wasn't that long after that they did, so I'm glad they used them. But I remember my dad saying, well, it's tax time. You know, I don't know if we should be spending money. I'm like, Dad, you've been retired for 15 years. What's any different this year than any other year? And so they agreed to go, and they ended up flying into Sydney. And the course that we played was on the Gold Coast. And they rented a car and drove from Sydney up the coast of Australia to Queensland and arrived Thursday morning in time for my first tee time. And then walked 72 holes with me, along with, strangely, quite a few members from St. Charles Country Club in Winnipeg. They would, instead of going to Florida or to California for the winter, they would go to Australia for 6 months. And so I remember this motley group of Canadians being there with all those Aussies out there cheering Kari on. And when we got to the back nine on Sunday, she had a 5-stroke lead standing on the 10th tee. And I won by a shot. So it was pretty surreal, the last 9 holes, how I played well and she was a little, sort of unglued by everything and 3-putted a couple times, and I made a few birdies, and the next thing we knew, we were coming down 18 tied. And what I remember most was making her cry. And I felt terrible at the time, and I laugh about it now, but I know that was a sting for her, and I want to sort of say, hey, this is what spurred Kari Webb onto her Hall of Fame career, but she was well on her way to that. But it was pretty surreal beating her, because she was the phenom at the time. She was the Lydia Ko. She was the Brooke Henderson on tour at that time. And, her career, it's just amazing what she has done and continues to do. But I can take a lot of pride in the fact that I beat one of the best players in the world to win my second event on tour in a really cool place with my parents there. Awesome.
Yes, absolutely. And just a couple more, Gail, before we let you go. And like I mentioned in your intro, you're in more Hall of Fames than people can shake a stick at. You're in the Hall of Fame at Lamar. You're in the Golf Hall of Fame for both Manitoba and British Columbia. In your quiet moments now, when you sit back and reflect back on your career and all the things that you've accomplished, what's it? Do you give yourself credit? Do you think, wow, what an unbelievable career, what a wonderful life I've had? I mean, what's it like to reflect back on all the things you've been able to accomplish?
I'm very proud of all of those things, and golf has really provided for me in so many ways throughout my career and through my life. Being a part of the Commonwealth team that won in New Zealand, and being on provincial teams and the national team for Canada and Lamar, and right up to playing handicap with the internationals on the Legends Tour. From a competitive standpoint, it's just been an amazing journey on that side of it, for sure. And I look at outside the ropes, the things that it's given me. I was president of the LPGA Tour at a time where there weren't a lot of international players who were really taking interest in the workings of the tour and building the tour. And I'm very, very proud of that. And I served for 7 years of my career and 2 years as president. And then, I took that when I retired and became president of the Tournament Owners Association for the LPGA, and got to work with all the events. And I talk about it as being my outside the ropes career. And now, I'm still playing a little bit on the Legends Tour, and I'm teaching, and it just gives me so much joy to be able to see people get it when they have some improvement in their game and they're excited about it and enthusiasm, and I can impart all of the things that I've learned over so many years of experience to those people. And, I think the greatest joy, though, in all of it, and I laugh sometimes, and a lot of us do on the Legends Tour, we're like, geez, were we really that good? Because it's just kind of mind-blowing, because you know how hard the game can be. it can be so difficult, and you think, wow, did I ever hit shots like that? And then you hit a good one, and you think, wow, I still got it, and that makes it kind of fun. But the greatest part of the game is being able to just play and play with whomever. I was out this past weekend. I'm in Portland, Oregon right now, and I was out this past weekend watching a young lady that I teach play a Division III tournament with her teammates from Whitworth University in Spokane, and it was so fun just to watch them play and sort of to feel that pressure and that excitement and wanting her to do so well, and then turning around and playing golf with my friends, where we're just laughing and having a beer and enjoying the game. And I'm so thankful that one Sunday my parents took me out, and my father passed away this past April, and to the very end, golf was the thing that kept us so closely connected. And he, at the age of 90, he shot 89 and
wow.
broke his age for the umpteenth time. And we laughed because he's like, you're never going to be able to do that when you turn 90. And so, the golf just spans so much. So I'm very proud of my career, and I'm proud of what I've done off the golf course. And I'm excited for the so many opportunities that it continues to present to me, whether that is, coming on a radio show with you or commentating with the Golf Channel or working on the board of the Legends Tour or, teaching young kids to play. It's just such a great game that it just provides so much life experience rather than, just a sport experience. And I want everybody to play golf. I want every kid to play golf just so that they have the opportunity for some of those great experiences that I've had.
And Gail, before we let you go, I was noticing, I believe it's on your website. Do you spend winters down in Naples, Florida, Esplanade Golf Course and Country Club?
I do, and I'm headed back that way, and we'll start back up teaching on November 1st, and really look forward to a good season there after all the cleanup from Irma, and Esplanade is open, and we're very playable, and looking forward to seeing all my students back down there again.
Do you ever get to another good friend of the show, Tom Patry, spend some time in the winters down there? You ever see Tom?
I stand on the tee next to Tom Patry, so I see him every day.
That's awesome. Good for you guys.
It's the best.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah,
good for you.
Best.
So, Gail, before we let you go, let our listeners know, how can they stay up to date with the great things you're doing, whether it's online or over social media?
Well, I'm on Instagram at Gail Graham Golf, and Facebook as well. And then my website is gailgrahamgolf.com. And love to see everybody down there in Naples or around the country. I seem to be doing a lot of traveling and with golf. So anywhere I go, I'm glad to meet new golfers.
Well, Gail, it's been a thrill getting to have you as part of the show tonight. So many other things I'd love to get your thoughts and insights on. I hope you'll come back and join me again sometime. It's been a lot of fun.
I would absolutely love to do that, Chris. Thank you so much.
All right, Gail. Take care. All the best to you and your family. Look forward to catching up with you again real soon.
Thanks. Take care.
Thanks, Gail. You too. That is Gail Graham, and again, online, gailgrahamgolf.com. And she has achieved so many things, and she's a wonderful teacher now. And you can see all the great things that she's doing online, and check it out on Instagram. That's where I first caught up with Gail, and then on the other social media sites as well. But boy, what a treat to get to spend time with someone like Gail, and hopefully we get the privilege of having her back on the show again real soon.